The Galactic Council's emergency session was called to order with a single thunderous strike of High Counselor Vrek's ceremonial staff. The massive chamber, normally filled with diplomatic murmurs and political maneuvering, fell into an unusual silence. Representatives from over 300 species sat rigidly in their designated areas, their attention locked on the central podium. The motion to permanently bar humans from all future military conflicts is now open for discussion, announced Vrek, his four eyes blinking in sequence. Admiral Telix will present the official report. A tall, spindly being approached the podium. Unlike many of the council members adorned in ceremonial garb, Admiral Telix wore a simple military uniform, marked with the insignia of the Unified Defense Forces. The scars on his exoskeleton told of his long service. Esteemed council members, Telix began, his translator rendering his clicks and whistles into standard galactic common. The Battle of Orion's Belt has concluded. The hegemon forces have withdrawn from all contested systems and sued for peace. A ripple of approval moved through the chamber. However, Telix continued, raising a limb for silence. I'd come not to celebrate victory, but to warn you all of a terrible mistake we must never repeat. The display behind him activated, showing footage from various battle sites. The council members leaned forward, many having heard rumors, but few knowing the full truth. Where the war began, humanity was our newest member species. Their worlds were among the first attacked. We initially denied their request to join the defense forces, citing their primitive technology and limited space combat experience. Telix paused, mandibles clicking in what his species considered a nervous gesture. That was our first mistake. The display shifted to show human diplomatic archives. Humans, as we all know, are persistent. They argued that while their ships might be technologically inferior, their tactical thinking and adaptive combat strategies would be valuable. After 3 devastating defeats, this council reluctantly agreed. An image appeared of a modest human fleet joining the much larger and more impressive Alliance Armada. We assigned them limited support roles. Their ships were positioned at the rear, their personnel integrated as observers rather than combatants. The footage shifted again, showing the infamous battle that had brought them all here today. The Battle of Orion's Belt began as expected. The hegemon deployed their standard overwhelming force strategy. Our defense was failing. 3 primary defense hubs had been destroyed. Retreat seemed inevitable. Telix's voice took on a different quality, and the humans broke formation. The display showed a chaotic scene. Human ships suddenly accelerating, ignoring direct orders, diving straight into the heart of the enemy formation. They called it getting their hands dirty. What followed has been classified at the highest level until today. The footage continued, and many council members visibly recoiled. Human ships executed maneuvers that defied conventional tactics. They rammed larger vessels. They detonated their own damaged ships as impromptu explosives. They vented reactor plasma as weapons. They modified communication arrays into radiation emitters. The human commander, Captain Reed, when questioned about these actions, simply stated they were improvising. Another video played showing human ground forces. Unlike the methodical, formation-based combat of most council species, humans fought with terrifying adaptability. They used enemy weapons against them. They modified their environment. They employed psychological warfare tactics that even the hardened hegemon troops couldn't withstand. Within 3 standard days, Telix continued, what had been a certain defeat became an unprecedented victory. The hegemon forces didn't just retreat, they fled in disarray. The admiral's voice became grave, but the cost was unlike anything we've seen in modern warfare. The display showed the aftermath. Devastation on a scale that made several council members look away. Humans have a concept they call total war. When faced with existential threats, they recognize no distinction between military and other resources. Everything becomes a potential weapon. Everyone becomes a potential soldier. Telix brought up the final set of statistics. The hegemons sued for peace not because they couldn't continue fighting, but because they were terrified of what humans might do next. Their diplomatic communications specifically cited unpredictable savagery and lack of civilized restraint. Admiral Telek straightened his posture, looking out at the assembled representatives. I stand before you today not to condemn humanity. They saved countless lives throughout our systems, but I strongly support the motion to permanently bar them from military conflicts, not because they aren't effective, quite the opposite, because they are too effective, and in ways that challenge the very foundations of how this council has conducted warfare for millennia. The human Ambassador Jones sat quietly through all of this. When Telex finished, all eyes turned toward her. She stood, straightened her uniform, and spoke a single sentence that would be recorded in council archives forever. We didn't come to the stars to fight your wars, but if threatened, understand that humans don't fight to participate. We fight to end threats permanently. The motion passed unanimously. In the centuries that followed, the Galactic Council faced many conflicts, but none escalated to full-scale war. The mere suggestion that the ban on human military participation might be reconsidered was enough to bring even the most aggressive species to the negotiating table. Humanity went on to become the Council's foremost experts in disaster response, medical intervention, and diplomatic resolution, their intensity channeled toward creation rather than destruction. But sometimes, when negotiations grew tense, older species would quietly share the classified footage from Orion's belt and whisper a warning that had become something of a galactic proverb. Pray you never see a human who has decided that peace is no longer an option.